In the dying glow of a forgotten forest, where magic flickers like a fading flame, one final spark dares to burn against the darkness. This is the legend of the last Ember Fairy, the guardian of lost light and the keeper of ancient fire. Her wings shimmer with the glow of dawn, her heart burns with the strength of ages, and her destiny will ignite a world slipping into shadow. Join us as we uncover her tale, a story of courage, loss, and the eternal flame that refuses to die. Welcome to The Last Ember Fairy. The Last Ember Fairy. The story. In the twilight realm of Alarion, where magic once danced like starlight across the forests, the world had begun to dim. The ancient flames that powered the heart of the realm, embers of creation left behind by the gods, were fading one by one. Long ago, the Ember Fairies had been their keepers, small, radiant beings born of both flame and spirit, tasked with preserving the eternal balance between warmth and life. But centuries of war, greed, and fading belief had driven them nearly to extinction. Only one remained. Her name was Lyra, the last Ember Fairy. Her wings shimmered faintly, woven from threads of dying firelight, and her glow was dimmer than a candle in a storm. She lived alone in the hollow flame grove, a sanctuary that once burned bright with thousands of ember lights. Now it was dark and silent. Each step she took left a faint trail of golden dust that vanished almost immediately, as if the world itself were forgetting her existence. Lyra's purpose was simple: keep the final ember alive. It floated in the center of her grove, a small, pulsing flame enclosed in a crystal sphere. It was said to contain the breath of the first fire, the spark that had given birth to both gods and mortals. If it were to die, Alarion's sun would fade, its forests would wither, and the age of magic would end forever. But the ember was dying, and so was Lyra, the shadow of extinction. Every night, she tried to coax warmth from the flame, singing the old songs of the Ember Court. Her voice, once radiant, now trembled like smoke. The ember flickered weakly in response, but each day it burned a little smaller. Lyra could feel her essence, bound to the ember itself, waning with it. Desperation grew within her. The magic of the ember could not be reignited by will alone. It required belief, the faith of mortals who once prayed to the light. Yet in this age, humans no longer believed in fairies, nor did they whisper to the fires for blessings. They built machines, worshipped steel, and mocked the old tales. Still, Lyra refused to surrender. Even a dying ember, she told herself, can start a new fire. One night, guided by instinct and fading hope, she decided to leave the grove for the first time in centuries. She would find anyone who still believed. Someone who could rekindle the bond between human and flame. She wrapped the ember in a shard of crystal and carried it close to her chest, its warmth pulsing faintly against her heart. The journey would take her beyond the borders of the enchanted forest, into a realm that no longer remembered magic, the human world. Lyra's flight was slow, her wings weak, but determination kept her aloft. The world she entered was colder, quieter, stripped of color. The skies no longer shimmered with enchantment. Even the stars seemed distant and dull. She came upon a small village called Dunvale, nestled in the shadow of the Iron Mountains. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the streets glowed faintly with lanterns, not with fairy light, but with oil and glass. Humans bustled about their lives, unaware that a dying fairy watched from the eaves. Among them was a young blacksmith named Rowan, whose forge still burned with passion, if not with magic. Lyra watched him work from afar. Each strike of his hammer sent sparks flying into the air, and for a moment, she thought she saw the echo of ancient fire within him. Drawn to that spark, she approached. When Rowan paused to rest, he heard a faint voice calling his name. He looked up, seeing nothing but a flickering glow hovering by his forge. "Who's there?" he asked, wary yet curious. "Do you still believe in the light?" came her whisper. At first, he thought it was his imagination, a trick of exhaustion. But then he saw her, a tiny figure of flame and gold, her wings trembling like candlelight. "You are a fairy," he murmured, disbelief and wonder mixing in his tone. Lyra smiled weakly. "The last one." A spark of hope. Rowan listened as Lyra told her story, the fading ember, the dying light, the coming darkness. Though he struggled to believe fully, something in her voice resonated with the forgotten stories his grandmother used to tell. The idea that a living flame could protect the world stirred something deep within him. He offered to help her, though he didn't know how. The ember needs belief, Lyra explained. Faith that the light is worth saving. I cannot rekindle it alone. The fire of mortals must meet the fire of creation. Rowan looked at the forge behind him, glowing with human-made heat. Then let me lend you my fire, he said. Together, they began to work, a mortal and a fading fairy, forging not weapons or tools, but faith. Rowan melted metals with his flames while Lyra danced upon the molten surface, weaving symbols of ancient light into the air. Slowly, the forge began to glow with a radiance that neither had seen before, a pure golden hue that shimmered with life. The ember, resting nearby, pulsed faintly in response. For the first time in centuries, it grew brighter. Lyra's wings strengthened slightly, her glow deepening. She looked at Rowan with awe. You still carry the old fire, she whispered. It never truly died. But as hope bloomed, so too did danger. The shadow returns. Far beyond Dunvale, deep beneath the dying forests, something stirred. The ash wraith, a remnant of the ancient wars that had destroyed the Ember Fairies. Born from smoke and greed, it had slept for ages, feeding on forgotten memories and fading light. The rekindling of the ember awoke it. It rose like a storm of black fire, whispering in tongues of despair. Its power grew with every flicker of doubt and every extinguished flame. To it, the ember represented the last obstacle to consuming Ilarion entirely. As Lyra and Rowan worked, the sky above Dunvale darkened. Shadows crept along the village edges, and fires began to sputter. The wraith's voice echoed through the night. Flame must fade. Light must die. Even your last ember will turn to ash. Lyra trembled. The wraith's power was immense. It fed on hopelessness, and she had so little strength left. Rowan, seeing her falter, stepped forward. Then it will have to go through me first. He stood at his forge, hammer in hand, as the darkness poured toward them. The battle for the flame. The wraith descended like smoke, its form shifting and writhing. It struck at Rowan, sending waves of cold through the air. Lyra flew above him, casting trails of light to ward it off, but each strike dimmed her wings further. Lyra, Rowan shouted. How do we stop it? The ember, she gasped. It must be awakened, through sacrifice, through belief. Without hesitation, Rowan seized the ember from its crystal casing. The flame seared his skin, burning deep into his soul, but he didn't let go. Believe, Lyra whispered. Say the words. Remember the light. Rowan closed his eyes and thought of his grandmother's stories, the ones of heroes, of gods, of fairies dancing in the first dawn. He thought of every spark he had ever struck, every fire he had ever tended, every time he had refused to let the darkness take him. I believe, he said through clenched teeth. The ember exploded with light. The wraith screamed as the brightness tore through its smoky form. Lyra, drawing on the last of her essence, merged with the flame. Her wings spread wide, transforming into arcs of pure fire. Together, she and Rowan unleashed a torrent of radiant energy that swept across the sky, burning the darkness away. When the light faded, the wraith was gone. The sky cleared, and dawn broke over Dunvale. The forge stood silent, save for the soft crackle of the ember, now blazing like a miniature sun. But Lyra was gone. The last light. Rowan looked around desperately, calling her name. Then he saw her reflection within the flame, no longer a tiny fairy, but a spirit of pure light, smiling softly. The ember lives, her voice whispered, echoing in the warmth. And through it so do I. Tears filled Rowan's eyes as he bowed his head. Thank you, he said. From that day forward, the forge of Dunvale never went dark. Its flame burned eternal, its light never dimming, no matter how harsh the winter. Word spread across the lands, and soon others came to see the miracle of the unending fire. They began to believe again, not just in fairies, but in the power of the light itself. And with each new believer, the ember burned brighter. Some nights, when the stars were clear, travelers claimed they could see a faint figure dancing in the heart of the flame, a fairy of gold and ember, wings shimmering like dawn. The Last Ember Fairy. Explanation. One symbolism and themes. The Last Ember Fairy is a story about endurance, belief, and the cyclical nature of faith. The ember represents the last spark of hope in a fading world, a metaphor for both personal perseverance and the survival of ancient wisdom in modern times. Lyra, as the last of her kind, embodies the fragility of beauty and tradition in a world that has forgotten magic. Her connection to the ember symbolizes the link between divine energy and human spirit. When humans cease to believe, magic dies, not because it ceases to exist, but because it loses its reflection in human consciousness. Rowan's rediscovery of belief represents humanity's ability to reignite wonder through courage and compassion. 2. Lyra's character arc. Lyra begins as a guardian bound by duty, her existence tied to the flame she protects. Yet her journey forces her to confront despair and find strength in something beyond magic: hope. Her sacrifice at the story's end transforms her from a mere caretaker into an eternal symbol of renewal. Though she dies, she transcends her form, becoming one with the ember and ensuring that her legacy continues through human faith. 3. Rowan's role. Rowan serves as the bridge between myth and man. Initially skeptical, he embodies the pragmatic, modern human disconnected from wonder. Yet his willingness to believe, even when reason falters, restores the world's balance. His fire-forging craft mirrors Lyra's own essence. Both are creators who shape the world through flame and effort. Their partnership illustrates how human craftsmanship and divine inspiration can coexist. For the Ash Wraith. The Ash Wraith symbolizes despair, doubt, and decay, the forces that smother creativity and belief. It feeds on hopelessness, thriving in the absence of faith. Its defeat is not merely physical, but symbolic. When Rowan chooses to believe, he denies the wraith its sustenance. This reflects the idea that darkness in the world often grows strongest when people stop believing in light, whether that light is magic, goodness, or hope itself. 5. The ending and legacy. The story's ending balances tragedy and triumph. Lyra's physical form is gone, yet her essence endures, embodying the eternal nature of light. The ember's flame becomes a communal beacon, restoring belief across the land. This ending suggests that while individual magic may fade, the collective spirit can sustain it, an echo of myths that persist even after their tellers are gone. 6. Deeper interpretation. At its core, The Last Ember Fairy can be read as an allegory for storytelling itself. Fairies, like stories, depend on belief to exist. When people stop telling tales, the fairies vanish, just as old myths die when no one remembers them. Lyra's survival through Rowan's belief mirrors the act of passing down stories through generations. Every listener, every believer keeps the ember alive. In a broader sense, the narrative speaks to the human struggle against nihilism and forgetfulness. It asks the reader, what sparks still burn within you? What forgotten wonder could reignite your world if only you believed again? The Last Ember Fairy is more than a fantasy. It's a parable about resilience, remembrance, and the fragile thread connecting humanity to its own light. It tells us that even when the world grows cold and faith falters, a single ember of belief can reignite the dawn. Lyra's final whisper, "The ember lives, and through it, so do I," is a timeless reminder that hope, once lit, never truly dies. It merely waits, glowing faintly in the dark, for someone to believe again. And so, as the final ember fades into the night, the legend of the Last Ember Fairy reminds us that even the smallest spark can reignite hope. Her light, though fragile, endures beyond time, a symbol of resilience, love, and the eternal spirit of magic. If her story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow dreamers of the mystical and the unseen. Until next time, keep your flame alive and your imagination burning bright. Thank you for watching The Last Ember Fairy, where every spark tells a story.